This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today you will consider this like your vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Please help spread the word around. And your rating and review really make a difference. Today I want to talk about something you rarely hear anything about, and that is that good leaders are good followers. One of the great training places, I would call it a training university of practice, is you'll never be a good leader if you haven't been a good follower. And if you're someone who aspires to be a leader, you would love to be a leader, at this point in your life the doors have not opened, remember you're not following someone or something. You're a leader in training. That's one of the purposes of this podcast. Regardless of where you are in life, you are a leader. If you're in your home, you're leading in your home. If you're the person in your home that handles the finances or does certain chores, you're the leader of your family and specifically in that area. If you're involved in charitable work or not-for-profits and you volunteer, you're setting an example of leadership in that environment. Perhaps even where you're employed, the word leader isn't in your title, but by your example and by what you do and by doing your very absolute best, you are a leader. So remember, you're really not following, you're a leader in training. Where do you think leaders are discovered? That there is a leadership factory that has a conveyor belt and an assembly line, and they put in the important magical ingredients, and voila, at the end of the line, out pops a leader. Leaders come from among the general population. History is replete with stories of leaders coming from some of the least likely places that oftentimes even those around them did not recognize the leadership potential in them. There are even incredible stories where one's own family didn't recognize themselves. So if you're in a position of following, you're sort of aspiring, you believe maybe you would like to be a leader, you're in the right place. And I'm going to say it's probably at the right time. Quit seeing yourself as an underling or just the hired help. You are a leader in training, and whatever you do today, do it with all of your heart, do it with gusto, do it to the best of your ability. Believe in yourself. If there are some areas in your life that need to be changed, make the appropriate changes. Not only believe in yourself, believe in your leader. A lot of followers who think that they want to become the leader think you get there by trying to have a coup or to overthrow the leader. Now, many, if not most, never really attempt that in a extravagantly overt way. But there are people who think the way I can get ahead in life and I can become a leader is by sowing seeds of discontent, by undermining decisions of the leader, of talking behind her back, of taking him to task privately among other people. That is not going to work. If you're going to be a great leader, a part of being a great follower is you believe in yourself, but you have to believe in your leader. Work with all of your heart to help your leader. Now remember, as you're following, don't get so in love with a personality cult, the believing that I am just here because this person is so charismatic and so winsome. Follow your heart, follow your values, follow your goal. So leaders are good followers. There are wonderful things that are developed when you're a follower. One of them is courage. Courage in just a general sort of way, but specifically in a couple of ways. Courage to be the best that you can be. And oftentimes, if you're going to step out of the crowd and seek to be a person of excellence, it's going to take courage because people will begin to challenge you and say, who do you think you are? Are you bucking for a promotion? Do you think you're something that you're not? Perhaps one of the areas where it will take the most courage when you're not the leader is when you have to deliver some bad news to the leader, or because of your position, you are seeing things that the leader is not seeing, and to go and say that will, it causes a little bit of fear. It takes courage. I can think of several occasions when someone who was either on staff or a volunteer or someone in the organization brought something to my attention that I was not seeing. Perhaps it was a blind spot, or perhaps I was so focused on other things that I didn't pay attention to it. Now, let's all just take a moment out to be really candid and straightforward and forthright. Yes, there were times, especially as a younger leader, that it stung, and the leader will at times come right back at you and try to put you in your place. But if you have delivered it in a kind, calm, serious fashion, and it's not well received, that's not on you, that's on the leader. But every good leader needs great followers, great people in the organization who will say to them, I know you didn't intend this. This was not where you thought this would go. But are you aware of what the perception is among the people? And then you just give the story. You don't need to give it in an accusatory or a smug fashion, but as a friend and confidant of the leader, it's not just enough to be a good follower by agreeing with the leader on everything that he or she says or does. It's going to take courage for you to deliver tough news and to do it wisely and to do it in a timely manner. Whether a leader ever thanks you, there is no more important thing you can do for the leader, for your organization, and for yourself. That, my friend, is a course in leadership training. And this is where you learn leadership. Leadership is not all popcorn and balloons. At times, there are some tough deliverables, and you're developing those muscles right now. Another thing that you can learn of why being a great follower is the route to being a great leader is collaboration. Unfortunately, far too many leaders isolate themselves. They worked as collaboratively when they were not in those positions, but somehow the title has gone to their heads. They believe they are owed some special deferment and that everyone must scrape and bow and give in to them. And when they suggest their ideas, everyone is to stand and applaud and say, what a great idea. But it is all of the people in the organization who need to develop the skill of how are we going to work together. And leader, it's very important. And follower, if you want to be not only a good leader, but a tremendous leader and one with a great deal of effectiveness, develop the ability to collaborate with one and all. Don't look down on anyone, but rather be a person who has learned to collaborate. Also, when you're a great follower, you begin to develop the skill of realizing that none of us are intrinsically better than anyone else. We are not ultimately judged by our salaries, our educational level, or even the authority and positions that we have been given. And another thing that a follower can develop is the ability to realize you can still get much done even if you don't have the organizational authority that others have. It's time to rethink our view and understanding of leadership. Leadership in too many places has to do with authority and up the chain of command. You need to learn to collaborate together. And if you're a leader, you need to collaborate with your people. Not any one of us is as smart as all of us. Everyone has something to contribute. And as a follower, as you learn to collaborate with your team and your coworkers, you are developing the skills that we need for our leaders. Now, good followers also follow chains of command. They are respectful. But let's give another attribute that a follower develops that will help them in leadership position, and that's patience. I'm sure you have come to understand that not everything in life happens on my or your timeline. We want things usually more quickly than they seem to come. And impatience is developed in lots of ways, waiting for the proper timing. Even when we collaborate and work in teams, it requires patience. Everyone doesn't see things the same way. Everyone doesn't come to the conclusions immediately. And this is a place where we have to put aside making hasty assumptions, rudely interfering, getting people to go along with us, pushing our weight around. We learn to develop patience. You'll develop patience by realizing that everything all the time at work, at home, or anywhere else in life is not necessarily going to go my way. I'll have to learn. It's almost become a negative word, and it shouldn't be. It's the word compromise. I'm not talking about compromising your values or what your belief system. I'm talking about the fact that when we come together and working on projects, if you're working in a team and you're exercising teamwork, everyone is never going to get 100% of what they want. And that would also be true of the person who does have the authority of leadership. One of the great things you will develop as a follower that will be important for you to take into a leadership role is you'll begin to learn to give respect. Once in a while, as a leader, we need to step back and realize there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of things behind the scenes, beneath the surface, that very few see nor appreciate. And if it wasn't for their labor, their endeavors, their hard work, nothing would get done, and we would not have all that we see. One of the most difficult things to put up with a leader is a disrespectful leader who doesn't respect people, who doesn't respect process, who doesn't respect the way we have to operate, and doesn't respect another person's opinion. I'm imagining that all of us have been in the meeting when someone has shared something that they thought needed to be done, and immediately the person, quote, in charge, demeaned it, put it down, laughed at it, and that is beyond painful, and it's absolutely unacceptable. We must respect everyone's viewpoint. Now, the fact that I respect everyone's viewpoint does not mean I have to agree with everyone's viewpoint, or that I even have to implement it and do what they would like for us to do. But it does mean we need respect. My sense is that most leaders who get promoted and are highly disrespectful didn't just develop that habit in one day. They were probably a disrespectful follower as well. They were just able to disguise it and hide it. Another thing that I think is important, and a skill that is developed as we are developing our followership skills before being a leader, is we learn how to effectively communicate. Unfortunately, many folks think that communication is something only leaders need to be concerned about, and they don't really begin to delve into it and study and apply it until they are already, in fact, in a leadership position. But nothing could be farther from the truth. Nearly anything in this world that breaks down, you can almost always point to poor communication, whether that's in relationships, whether that's in organizations, whether that's in politics, philosophy. It really doesn't matter. And so, as a follower, learn to hone the craft of being a good communicator. Learn to communicate your thoughts succinctly and clearly. Ask for feedback. It's the only way you will know whether you are communicating. What I hear far too many leaders do when they have a poor way of communicating is, and folks aren't getting the information, they aren't receiving it, and they aren't processing it, is oftentimes, too many times, the leaders blame the people, the listeners. If there is information, if your communication is not going well, if you're not communicating adequately, the problem is not the people with whom you're communicating, it's with the communicator themselves. You have to develop communication skills. So if you're not the leader today and you're just a follower in the organization, you're not just a follower. You are where you are and you can make a difference, and you're there for a purpose. You're not just there for the purpose of collecting a paycheck. You're there for the purpose of making a difference. I think of an old Teddy Roosevelt quote who said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." You and I are never going to have all the resources we need. We're never going to be in the place we would like to be. But wherever I am today, I'm going to do the best that I can. You have been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, and productivity. I hope today this podcast was like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, if you would subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review, it'll help other excellent people just like you locate this podcast. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.